session, Professor Arvind Sahai, Chair of IGPC at IIMA Ahmedabad, would be the session chair. And we have a couple of interesting research presentations lined up. So our first presentation is based on research by Professor Biju Varke, IIM Ahmedabad, Professor Jatinder K. Jha from XLRI, and Ms. Novel Shakil Ansari, who's a research associate at HRM area in IIM Ahmedabad. They will be presenting their paper titled Skill Development, Evidence from the Organized and Unorganized Sector in the Indian Gold Jewellery Manufacturing Sector. Professor Sahai would be the session chair. Thank you. Over to you.
यही से चेंज होगा ना
So, if I can request the presenters to take around somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes for the presentation, and then we'll open it up for Q&A from the audience and myself. Yeah. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon. So this is a part of our main research, which was primarily about exploring the labor conditions and labor practices in the gold jewelry manufacturing sector, which we have been conducting for last 2 to 3 years. So basically this paper is the brief insights which we have gathered in our main research regarding the skill developmental issues which this industry is facing. So we will propose some ideas, the insights which we have gathered in this research, so that it's a food for thought, and the detailed study will be conducted in the next phase of our project. So the brief, in India, around 10 million people join the workforce every year. In particular, if we are talking about the jewelry industries, around 3 to 4 million people join this particular industry. And the employment size is very high in this particular industry. And if we see the core advantage, the competitive advantage, in the first session we were talking about, there is a huge opportunity for this particular industry to grow. And if we see in the growth, the primary backbone for this industry is the karigars, the artisans, the craftsmanship. Now the challenges which this industry is facing, if we see the jewelry making and gem cutting skill, it dates back to several centuries. So now the question is how this knowledge, the tacit knowledge, is transferred from generation to generations. What are the various mechanisms? Do we have method or the processes there which is used in the formal, informal and semi-formal sector to store those knowledges and then encash in gaining the competitive advantage? So our research says, unfortunately, this is the data from the Labor Bureau, out of the 10 million people who joins every year Indian workforce, only 21.2% are the skilled workforce. Remaining 80%, 79% is not skilled for taking the skilled jobs. So this is the same scenario for the gold jewelry manufacturing sector also. So when we conducted study, we have conducted study majorly into 3 sectors. The formal, the large players; the informal, which is a small workshop run by the small karigar group of 4, 5 karigar, 10 karigars working in a workshop; semi-formal, which is not a large formal firm having all resources to train their employees. They somewhere between the formal and informal. So I just take you through the various developmental initiatives existing government of India is offering for the skill development, in particular to the jewelry manufacturing sector. There are the list of short-term and the long-term training programs: Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 2.0, 3.0, Jan Shiksha Sansthan, School Initiative Higher Education, Pre-Departure Orientation Training. There are few training programs for craftsman training scheme, which is quite long-term training. But if we see the participation rate and then their participation into the workforce, it's not encouraging. So the participation, even the awareness among the young generation who are going to join this particular industry is quite less. So what are the various challenges that I will share in my slides? So broadly, we are looking at the 2 objectives. What are the various skill development models in formal and informal sector in the gold jewelry manufacturing? And second is the integrated framework which we have designed, how basically the knowledge and skill of the karigars flows from informal to semi-formal to formal, and how these 3 sectors coexist. Before getting into the data and the data analysis, the framework which we have used, because based on our insight which we gather from our study, experiential learning is something which is primarily used in this particular sector, unlike many other industry where formal certification, formal training is important. In this sector, to join or start your career, no formal education is required, which is the requirement in many other manufacturing sector. Let's take example of automobile industry and other similar industry where even after the 10th class, you have the ITI. Then you can only be apprentice and you can get into that particular industry. But there is no such barrier or condition. You can join even a formal sector, formal gold jewelry manufacturing sector without prior any education background. Therefore, in such scenario, the competency development, skill development becomes very important for the industry. So the experience learning theory says there are two components of it. One is how you grasp the information or the knowledge. Second, then how you transform it. So there are two parameters of grasping the information. One is the concrete experience. Second is the abstract understanding of the concept, which is called abstract conceptualization. So in this industry, we have seen these both ways are used to train the karigars and the artisans. So one is where small workshop is created, which is kind of prototype workshop, where they are given on-job training. So concrete experience is imparted to the karigars. At the same time, once the information has been imparted, the second process is transformation. So there are two parameters of it. One is reflective observation, second is active experimentation. So what we have seen in the formal sector, active experimentation is something which is used. So on-job training, once the knowledge is transferred, at the same time opportunity is given to impart those particular knowledge in designing the jewelry and manufacturing the particular piece of jewelry. So it is a kind of workshop-based training which is given there. So experiential learning is something which is widely used in this particular sector. Just I directly take you to the a method which we have used, given the paucity of the time and the research, and since it was our first study, and overall if we see the literature in this particular industry, it is quite, you can say, anecdotal evidences are there. So we have the news article, we have the magazines, then we have some IGPC reports are there, World Gold Council reports are there. But as such, research, especially with regards to the human resource development, human resource management is not conducted so far. The first step we took is the qualitative study. It is the brief participant profile. We have contacted 4 large firms, 5 mini formals, 13 semi-formals, and then rest are association, industry experts, and other industry expert who has provided the insights to gather the information, and then we have prepared the integrated framework. Around 66 participants have given us the information. Again, this is not the part of our primary research. We have some brief insight about the skill development from these participants because objective was different. So this is the brief, what kind of skill development in the formal and semi-formal and even in the small formal sector is used. There are 2 ways of entry. One is the freshers. Freshers are hired directly. And second is the experienced karigars. In our observation and in our study, we have found majority of the formal firms, semi-formal firms, they prefer and recruit the experienced karigars who have worked in some informal sector or some other small firms. So very small percentage of their total workforce is hired as a freshers, and there they have registered. Some of the organizations have registered for apprentice program which Government of India runs in all states. So during their apprentice program, which ranges from 15 months to 3 years, 2 years, from depending upon the kind of skill set where they are going to get trained. And during that period, they are supposed to get the stipend. So for the participant, the interesting part is they are getting the exposure to the real manufacturing process. At the same time, from the perspective of the company, the important part here is they are getting the large young talent to their workforce. But it is a very small fraction of their total workforce which is enrolled through apprentice program. Rest all, majority of them are coming with the experience from various sectors. In-house skill development, experiential learning, as I explained earlier, this is one of the method where small pseudo type of workshop is created. Head karigars or the experienced karigars are imparting training to the freshers and they are getting the knowledge there. Another interesting thing we have found is in this industry, some large firms are using external and internal trainers both. Internal trainers are the experienced karigars who have spent around 10 to 15 years. They are acting as a in-house trainers. And finally, the external freelancers are available. Though in this industry, the aggregation of this type of manpower and aggregation of the trainer or some formal portal or that sort of things are not existing. So based on your experience, people are, through their network, they are able to arrange the trainers, and this is how training is happening in this sector. Then skill development stage. So when we briefly explored about what are the process through which the training and development happens, so basically they have designed their training in such a way based on the skill jobs and job families are created. So like they have the complex jobs, semi-complex jobs, and the routine and the simple jobs. So when someone joins, they are given the basic training. After the basic training, after 2-3 months of the basic training, they are able to get into the job such like the wire making, the ball making, which is the basic stuff of manufacturing process. Once they have gained experience of 2 years, 3 years, after that they are getting into the specialized. There is another concept which is very much common in this particular industry is, are we looking for the specialized or multi-skill? In this case, in this study, we have found firms are little inconclusive in this regard, because there are firms who are saying, because our source of competitive advantage is cost efficiency, which means we have to gain through the operational efficiency, and therefore my same worker should be able to finish the one particular task, and when they are repeating those tasks, they are getting the efficiency, and hence we can save the time and the gold dust and other stuff, which means the cost of production of manufacturing of gold jewelry is going down. Another firm, they suggested, instead of having the specialized workforce, we are giving gold to worker, and A to Z process required, suppose if it is a bangle, then A to Z process required to manufacture the bangle will be done by that particular person or number of person in that particular cell, which means it is depending upon the design, depending upon the jewelry, the A to Z work is given to one particular cell. So both these type of learning and skill development mechanism exist in the formal sectors. So the future study, and then when we were exploring, is there any kind of formal training development? So now recently we visited also in West Bengal, Ankur Hati. So Ankur Hati is a Karigar park where they are providing the facility to large number of small, medium and large size manufacturer. Titan and other big players also have their facilities there. So all these informal workers, the karigars, they are aggregated there. They are given very nice dormitory. They are provided with the training and development opportunities. They are provided with the hygiene work condition. So all those initiatives are coming, but in coming years, we are recommending that similar kind of jewelry park is required given the size of this particular industry and the skill gap which exists in this industry. Another model, so this is just a glimpse of the Ankur Hati, the training and development which is happening there. Another place that we visited called Hunar Shala. So Hunar Shala is another initiative which started way back in 1935, and they are also sourcing the young talent, and they are encouraging them by providing some formal training in the field of gold jewelry manufacturing skill. Again, it is an experiential learning based method where workshop is created and they are given the training there. So on an average, no matter what type of skill development method is used, on an average, it takes around 2 to 5 years to become a skilled karigar if someone is starting as a fresher in this industry. This is what we have gathered. This is the glimpse of the Hunar Shala. So the final, the integration, we need to understand why just formal degree or certification is not sufficient in this particular industry. Unlike other manufacturing sector where if you have the formal degree, you join the formal industry. If you lax on the formal degree, you join the informal sector. But in this case, formal and informal sector coexist. So both feeds each other. And interestingly, the talent which is coming to the formal sector, they are basically sourced from the informal sector only. So based on the place of work and the relationship between the manufacturer, we have divided this industry or type of work into 4 categories. So if it is a manufacturer facility and they have the direct relationship with the karigar and the particular manufacturer, which means they are hired by the manufacturer, we have put in the category full-time contractual fixed-term employment. And this is called formal employment in this sector, and formal training is there. Now in the second matrix, where it is manufacturing facility, but there is no direct relation, as I gave the example of Ankur Hati Karigar Park. Karigar Park is there. Responsibility of training lies with the owner, or you can say the founder, or those who are responsible for running that Karigar, they provide the training. Last two are the critical, which is the third and the fourth, outsourcing of work, which is happening in the informal sector. And last one is the subcontracting of work, where even formal organization is hiring some head karigar is further hiring some head karigar, and in this way, it finally goes to the informal sector. Their training is happening because of the head karigar. They are training them on the job. So this is what is the insight, and this is the framework which we have developed, how the career, I have already explained from informal to formal, how karigars are moving. There are different stages of their career. There are total 5 stages. From informal, they are learning into 5 years, going into the either formal, informal. After that, they are becoming head karigar. They continue, retire, or after 10 years, they also become a freelancer or kind of workshop owner who further provides a training and the karigar generation. This is how it works in this industry. Implication for studies in future, if you want to attract the young talent for this particular industry, skill development is the area where industry has to focus at various level, firm level, industry level, at country level. Thank you so much. If you have any question. Yeah.
So, as I look at what you presented, I think you said somewhere that you'd taken 189 interviews across
In the method, yes, sir.
many different people. And as I look at the manager owners and the karigars
Yeah.
in the formal sector
Yes, sir.
versus the, let's say, informal sector,
Yes, sir.
right? So you have 31 and 81 people that you have interviewed in the formal, and the informal it's 2 and 36.
Yes.
What would you say are the primary differences in the training levels, in the working conditions, in the amount of salary that the karigar in the informal sector makes, those 36 versus those 81? And what is the approximate difference in the revenue of the owner, if you will, in the informal sector versus the formal sector?
So the basic difference between these two sectors, the stark difference is the working condition. So, and second is the job security. In formal sector, at least you have the formal contract, you have the good working condition, you have the learning opportunity, at the same time you are provided with the skill development. Whereas in the informal sector, it is happening through a job, it is happening, your relative or someone who is working with you, they are going to give you the training. Working conditions are really poor in informal sector. In our previous presentation also, we had shared what kind of work they are having. Very small room where 8 to 10 karigars are sitting on the floor. There they are working. There are lots of issues with them. Compensation plan which actually motivate people to join informal as compared to formal is the gold dust based compensation plan, which in technical term we can say the revenue sharing kind of model is there. So in the formal sector, they are getting the fixed salary, then the variable. But in the informal sector, in most of the karigars are paid based on the gold waste, which is coming from the various jewelry. So the people are now thinking that if we are getting more waste, more work, we have to continue more working hours, as it is not regulated by any labor law, it's an informal sector. Hence, to chase the maximum income, people prefer to join work with informal sector as compared to the formal. Difference in salary is not that high. Despite they are working in the informal sector, still their income level are at par with the formal sector. In many cases, informal workers have higher salary as compared to the formal sector.
So what would be some numbers that you can share with us?
Earlier in our this thing, we have shared around 25 to 35,000 is something which is paid, again depending upon the skill set and the number of experience. On an average, 20 to 25,000 is something even informal workers are also able to manage.
And this set of people is from West Bengal, from...
Majority of them West Bengal, very few from Odisha, and very few from the southern part of the country. Almost all formal, informal, the dominance is from West Bengal.
in this particular data set,
In this particular data
it
also,
is-
sir.
It is mostly from West Bengal,
West
little bit
Bengal.
from Orissa, and little
Odisha,
less from
yes,
the south.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any
Yeah.
other questions from the audience?
Hello, it is good work. Have you done any comparative studies of such a thing with the skill development of India is doing some work? Data
Regarding?
collection, regarding such jobs.
No, right, because as I mentioned, this is for future study. So we are planning to categorize different job families, skill set, what competencies are required, and then we will try to come up with the skill development framework later stage. As of now, we have not done the comparative study as such. That we have not
Because
done.
they may be also doing some preliminary such studies.
Okay,
Just look
okay.
into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, yeah, where these, many of these, where is the workplace? Do they go far away from the workplace, or the work happens in their homes, in your study sample?
So we found two types of work, workplace in informal sector itself. One is the Karigar has a big house. So they invite all their, fellow colleagues, and they are working in that particular place. Even accommodation and cooking and everything is happening in the same house, and they all are living together. In second case, we have also seen that if the head Karigar don't have the big house, so then accommodation and the workshop is different. But in both cases, it is highly, congested, and very small place where large number of Karigars are working in a small room.
The reason I ask is, derived from that, there is a big push towards having jewelry parks
Yes.
in all places. So, do you think a jewelry park is going to change the way these people function?
The connect between Karigar and the head Karigar, or maybe introduction to this particular sector, is the relation and trust. There is no formal process where youngster is encouraged to join this jewelry industry. It is that head Karigar who has worked in this industry. He is bringing the Karigar, he is training the Karigar, and finally he is sourcing the work, and this is how this industry works. Now, if Karigar Park, of course, based on the work condition, should increase, but at the same time, the critical role will be played by that head Karigar who is actually connected with the actual worker and the Karigars. Karigars are in this sector because they are less educated, they don't have the idea about the career benefit they are going to get. It is purely trust which they have in the head Karigar, hence they are ready to work wherever the Karigar is taking that testing.
Yeah. Did you get any feedback? How is the next generation shaping up in this industry?
Yes, so most of the people, when we ask why you are joining this industry, the same which I have given the answer now, they are simply saying because my uncle is working, my relative is working, so they have that trust. Okay, based on that only they are coming. Otherwise, there is no nothing where I am motivated to join this industry. And given the working condition and the news article magazine, which is actually giving the evidence of poor working condition, then they are little discouraged. The young generation is discouraged to work in the particular sector.
Any other question? Is the skill set limited to the eastern region only?
When we actually talk to, because everywhere they were talking about the Bengali Karigars and all those things, but when we went to the southern part of the country, there the presence of Bengali Karigar was there, but it was lesser. They were not dominating. So they were hiring from the local, like Coimbatore and Thrissur. They were hiring from the local market, but they were the formal organization. They were able to provide them the training, and hence, because this was our biggest question, is this that tacit knowledge which cannot be replicated? Then they say, no, it can be replicated, they can be trained. Only it is a patience. Yeah.
So what were the sites? So
Kolkata, Jaipur, Rajkot, Thrissur, Coimbatore, Bangalore, Delhi. These are the clusters we have covered for the study. Because that time this COVID and this thing was there in 2019, so we restricted our plan. Otherwise, our plan was to cover all the regions of the country to understand the clusters.
25 साल का लड़का 40,000 ये नहीं कर रहा
Because income informal is quite decent. So that is how this sector is different from other manufacturing sector. Yeah. We didn't come across any this thing. So even somebody actually told us during our visit, even outside, if you go to Italy also, there you will find Bengali karigar. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank you,
your
sir.
presentation and the insights.
Thank you.